Tales from a Small Russian Town, The Leaper Incident. Before I tell you my story, let me introduce you to myself and familiarize you with the situation I am in. You can call me Elli. I am not going to give you my real name for privacy reasons. I live in a small, not so well-known town in Russia, where I lived all of my life up to this point. I won't mention town by name, for privacy reasons also, and because I don't want my town to become some sort of paranormal tourist trap. I live in an apartment building with my pet cat. Throughout my life, I experienced many weird things, and I thought I could share them with you and maybe tell you about my life in general. This feels like a perfect place to tell my stories. I am warning you, these tales are true, and I'm lucky that I'm still here to tell them. If people will find interest in my tales, I would be happy to share more. Let's start off with explaining where I live. Like I said before, I live in an apartment complex, a common place for people to live in Russia. I live in a very quiet neighborhood, a very comfy place to live in where there is everything very close by. There's 3 different stores, a pizza restaurant, a mall very close by, and I also live next to a hospital. I own a 1-room apartment, I have a kitchen, a room I sleep in, and a bathroom. I live on 7th floor, and my building has only 9 floors, so I'm living pretty high up. Why do I tell you this? Because recently, something happened to me that I could not find a logical explanation for, even if I try. Everything started several days ago. It was approximately 11 p.m. and I was about to go to bed, but I had to go drink water and check if I have food for breakfast. That's when I noticed a strange person standing across the road from my house from my kitchen window. He didn't move an inch, and despite him standing under a streetlight, I couldn't make out his features. It's not common for folks to walk around during such hours. Hell, I even saw food delivery workers riding on their bikes at such hours. But it's still very late. The street was empty, and he didn't move an inch. I didn't think much of it and just closed the door to my kitchen and went to bed. The next day, same thing happened. That man came back again. Same place, same time. I assumed it was a different man, but he does have similar shape to the man from before. I tried to ignore him, thinking maybe it's a coincidence, but then it happened again and again. I started to wonder if he was looking at my window. I just felt strange feeling that I was being watched. I was already thinking of calling the police and reporting a stalker, but what if that man is not even watching me? What if he is watching someone else? How do I even know if he's even watching me? Maybe he goes here to smoke or watch the stars. I decided to stay calm and think rationally. After all, I don't know the guy, and assuming that he may be some sort of stalker would be rude. But everything changed when I couldn't fall asleep. I drank too much water before bed and I had to take a leak, so I went to the bathroom to do all my business. After I was done, I looked at my kitchen. It was dark out and street lights were off. I forgot to close the kitchen door. I have a bad memory, and I have to close the kitchen because my cat would want to go there during the night and would start whining, waking me up in the process. So I went to the kitchen, but I foolishly decided to look at my window out of sheer curiosity, and that's when I saw him again. The man was still standing there. The time was like 1 a.m. Why was he still there? I tried to carefully look at the window, crouching down a little so he won't see me. He stood there, motionless. I could see him barely. I felt chill run down my spine. I decided that maybe it was time to do something, so I was about to call the police, but I accidentally clicked on the flashlight option. I turned it off, hoping he won't realize I'm still awake. My heart jumped as I began to get up. He was still standing there, but I felt like something changed about him. I couldn't point it out at first, until I saw it. His knees were bending. He moved. Should I be scared? Should I run? My first instinct was to back away, until he finally made his move. He jumped across the road, and with a loud thud of my window, he appeared before me. That was no ordinary man. He jumped from there to here like it was nothing. He was holding onto my window. You know when frogs stick themselves to the window? He was doing that. His face was so close to the window, he looked like he was trying to go through the glass. And his face, he was smiling. His dark eyes were focused on me. His teeth were long, and his face was pale and full of wrinkles. He wore a black winter coat with a hood on. I finally understood what he was wearing. I didn't know what to do. I slowly backed away, grabbing my knife in case it somehow manages to break in. That's when the worst thing happened. He started to slap my window repeatedly while screaming and laughing into it like a banshee. I jumped and dropped the knife. Fighting this thing wouldn't be worth it anyway. I grabbed my cat, shoes and keys. I only wore a short and boxers, but I ain't got time for dressing up. I could hear the sound of glass breaking slowly, before I could hear the shatter just as I closed the door. I locked my door up tight. Thankfully, I had 2 locks, one of which could only be locked with a key from outside. I ran out of the door screaming bloody murder. I grabbed my phone and called for the police. I told them that someone broke into my house. I did not mention the fact that intruder leaped like a grasshopper into my apartment. I had to hide somewhere, so the best solution in my eyes was to hide inside an elevator. I was afraid of him trying to break through one of the windows in between the floors next to garbage disposal. I kept waiting until suddenly the elevator started moving to the first floor. Thankfully, it was just the police arriving to my complex. I explained that someone climbed into my window somehow and got into my apartment. Despite how weird it sounded, they believed me and told me to wait somewhere safe. One of my neighbors on the lower floor heard my screech and decided to help me hide in her apartment. An hour later, and police reported that the culprit didn't steal anything, but he did make a mess in my apartment. Kitchen window was shattered completely. I drew them a sketch of the person. I told them that I saw that man standing outside, across the street from my house for a while. They promised me that they will find a culprit as soon as possible, recommending me that I should stay at my relative's place or a place of my close friends. I used to stay the night at my grandma's place, so I asked them to drive me there, so I won't have to get on taxi, and so I feel a little safer. That night, I slept at my grandma's place, and I decided to stay with her for a few days while police investigated the scene. I left my computer in my house, but police eventually brought it to me because I asked them. They did not identify the culprit, but fortunately, that damn grasshopper left fingerprints on my window, at least what was left of it. So now they have my sketch, my account, and proof that he actually was real and I did not make it up. Hopefully, they managed to find him, although I doubt it, because it can't be a normal person. Currently, I am still staying at my grandma's place, a bit nervous of going back to my house after the incident. I feel a lot safer with my grandparents. They were worried about me, but I thankfully got out without any injuries. I might tell you more about them in the future, if you believe me at least. The missing radio hosts. Want to hear the strangest radio broadcast never transmitted? It was recorded, sure, and those involved seemed damned positive that it was broadcasting somewhere, but it certainly wasn't anywhere it should have been. All the local listeners reported nothing but crackling and hissing noises when they manually inputted the station's number after being automatically kicked from the station. For whatever reason, midway through their show, they lost connection. I'll let you know when that divide happens. For now, I want to express the unease I have towards transcribing this. When the radio station cuts out, people were still calling in. People who shouldn't have been able to hear the hosts. I don't have an explanation, so I'm giving the gift of this problem to all of you. The radio broadcast begins normally enough. The sounds of a few swooshes incorporating a powerfully pleasant voice announced what station the audience was tuned into. After a few moments of silence, the perky hosts popped onto the show. Welcome back to JJ and Jesse, the only local radio station bringing you local news and music. I'm JJ, and next to me, as always, is Jesse. JJ had his deep and playful voice orchestrating the introductions. Hey everyone! Jessie sounded off in her own memorable, soft-spoken way. So I've got to ask Jess, what do you think of the supernatural? You mean like ghost stories? The sound of JJ chuckling hit the recorder. Well, like anything. UFOs, demons, evil spirits, things that'll suck the blood from your veins. Well, I think people definitely think they see things, that's for sure. You could hear the apprehension in her voice. But you don't believe them? JJ cooed in a suspicious tone. No, not really. I mean, my friends all have stories, but I guess those things just aren't attracted to me. Thunder rumbled into life with the press of an effects button. J.J.S voice became dark and mischievous, channeling energy from old horror movie hosts. We'll see about that, Jess. I've actually got some fun stuff planned for tonight. What do you mean? Jess asked. She sounded amused by her co-host's display of cheesy horror. I mean, I've got details about something truly evil lurking around these parts. Like a monster? Do we have our own little Bigfoot walking around? Nope, try something a little more sinister. And what could that be? A haunted phone number. It supposedly dials straight down to hell. More thunder crashed into the audio. JJ gave a villainous laugh while an audible grumble came from Jesse. Oh God, seriously? JJ let loose a slightly disappointed groan. Come on, Jess, where's your Halloween spirit? It's April. I left my Halloween spirit back in October. After a quick tisk from Jay's lips, he coyly whispered, you must be fun at parties. Here's an insider tip, she's not. Oh, stop it, Jay. Jesse laughed. Then prove me wrong. Dial up the number and let's take this puppy for a ride. Jesse let loose an exasperated sigh. All right. What's the number? Let's see. It's 845-354, 9912. That's not even a local area code, Jay. Just call it. All right, I'm dialing in and oh no. Jesse's voice shook slightly. What is it? JJ had his attention captivated by Jesse, and a brief silence filled the broadcast. Jesse began to speak, stuttering. It said, "Your call cannot be completed as dialed." The sounds of both JJ and Jesse laughing are heard before a thick wave of interruption rockets the recording. Their laughs become distorted and distant, slowed to a fraction of what they were, then quickly sped up and multiplied. Everything after this point was off air. The laughing subsided, and both the hosts returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Well, that's a bust. But good old JJ never comes unprepared. We've got local legends, paranormal pests, and creepy crawlies all lined up for tonight's show. And for any non-believers out there like me, strap yourselves in and indulge J.J's imagination for a while. I know it'll be rough, but hang tight. We do have some cool stories to tell. First things first, before we take our break, we challenge all of you out there to dial up that number and tell us what you heard. That number once again is 845-354, 9,912. Now enjoy the music while we take a quick break. For several minutes, silence is recorded. I have to specify the oddity of this fact. All of the microphones at the station were never switched off, yet there are no sounds for several long minutes. No chairs scuffing the floor. No drinks being moved on the wooden table. Nothing. It's almost like everything just stopped for a moment. Then it cuts back in. Welcome back. I'm JJ. And I'm Jesse. Now, Jesse, I heard you stepped out to your car during our break and something happened? Well, no. I wouldn't say something happened. I just felt weird. I know it's late at night and it's supposed to be dark outside, but besides our parking lot's lights and the lit windows of our building, I couldn't see anything else out there. Even the suburbs a few miles down were completely dark. Sounds spooky. JJ moaned teasingly towards Jesse. I'm sure it's just a power outage. Luckily for us, our station doesn't seem to be affected, so all you listeners at home or in your cars can continue to hear my beautiful voice. Jesse interrupted JJ in a slightly unsettled tone. That's not all, Jay. What do you mean? I mean, I know it's just a feeling, but I felt like the air was wrong. It felt muggy and stale. Everything just felt dead. A quick groan came from her lips as she shook the feelings off of her mind. These stories are going to give me a panic attack. Perfect. That's just what I wanted to hear. You could hear the smile pierce through J.J. quote, S tone. I've actually got some callers on the line ready to go. All of these names are listed as unknown, so I'd like to give a shout out to our technical support guy Ryan for really going above and beyond for these call screenings. Jay then mumbled in a mockingly serious tone. Hell of a job, Ryan. I know you can hear me in that back room. Before returning to his upbeat self. Anyway, let's get started with caller number 1. Welcome to JJ and Jesse. What stories have you got for us? Several sizzles and sputters respond to JJ on the other end of the line. Are you close to your radio? We'll need you to step away from it in order to hear you. The sputters get worse, becoming more and more organic. A clicking noise began to appear under the tones of meaty chatter, soft at first, then rapidly becoming louder like an insect screeching at the top of its ability. A loud click is heard silencing the noises from the other end of the phone. Well, all right then. I'm going to have to end that call there. Weird stuff. Let's try unknown caller number 2. Welcome, unknown caller. Hello? A wispy voice rattled off in confusion. Hey, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from? I'm on your roof. I'm sorry, what? Your antenna is so tall? Welp, that's enough of that caller. Another click is heard as JJ ends the call abruptly. Jay, this is starting to freak me out. Can we move on to a different topic? The slight nervousness in her voice trailed along the edge of anxiety. JJ persisted. We've got one more caller, then we can move on. Welcome, caller. You don't have enough time. Time for what? There's not enough time. There's not enough time. A loud screech sounds off during the recording, sharp enough to cut right into the listeners' skulls. What the hell was that? JJ shouted, his hearing impaired and muted. A shattering sound muffled its way onto the recording. Jay, I think someone just broke a window out front. I'm going to call the cops. The sound of Jesse's chair toppled over, lending its way to a muffled slam on the floor. Hey Ryan, what's going on out there? JJ yelled out, sounding horrified, terror leading the way in his voice. Oh Jesus, Jay, look! Jesse whispered. Ryan, get... Then a symphony of splintering glass erupts itself onto the tape. Ryan, what's wrong with you? Jesus, your head, what have you done? A shriek comes from Jesse as her voice trails further from the microphone. What the hell was that? It took Ryan. It pulled him right out the window. The sounds of sputtering equipment and bursting power cords fills the audio before a voice begins speaking. We're both on the roof now. He doesn't fit onto the antenna. The distorted voice chirped up from the crackling nearby radio equipment. Jesse, did you reach the cops? No, nothing's dialing through. 911 just tells me that the call cannot be completed as dialed. It doesn't sound right, Jay. Something's wrong. Use the landline. We need to get out of here. Jay was breathing heavily, his voice changing in pitch as he quickly looked over his shoulder away from the microphone. I'm getting the same answer except quicker. Jay, look at the window. Jesse screeched in horror. You're out of time. The familiar sounds of 3 increasingly high-pitched beeping tones finishes the broadcast as if an out-of-service phone number had been dialed. That noise signaled the end of the broadcast. 76 hours of impossible silence followed the recording. The police investigated the station and turned off all the equipment less than 24 hours after JJ and Jesse's disappearance. Besides this audio clip, nothing else was out of the ordinary. All the windows were intact. No signs of forced entry was found, and the parking lot cameras revealed nothing except that Jessie had never left the building to check on her car. Ryan Stevens, James Jackson, and Jesse Walters all disappeared that night without a trace. Well, that was pretty much it. I hope you liked the story till then. Bye-bye.